Hi everyone, and welcome to your pre-recorded section of this run of labs for exercise and health physiology. During your last sessions, Dr. Hennis gave you some guidance on your upcoming assessment, and this time around we're going to follow up on that somewhat and start to give you some further guidance on some more specific elements of your lab report. Okay, so in this first part of the lab, I'll be focusing more specifically on your methodology section, and this will be surrounding more the processes and procedures that we went through before we started the actual VO2 max test. And then in the live sessions, we'll start to have a look at some statistics, and that will mainly be focusing on how to get your data sets formatted in Excel in a way that you can translate them over to SPSS and conduct your analysis. Okay, but for now, let's just focus on your methodology. So on the Now page, you already have some really detailed, nice video content that Dr. Hennis has put together for you that demonstrates what happens once you get the participant on the bike and you start the test, and we go into detail about some values that we expect to see from different variables produced by the metalyzer. So the useful sort of sessions for you guys to see this in would be sort of week 17 in lab session 4, okay, and then in week 19 lab session 5, and then also if you go onto the YouTube page for the module, there are also some really useful videos on there as well. Okay, so if you haven't already accessed and watched those videos, I would highly suggest that you do so. So now what I'll be going through is basically giving you a recap of what we did before we got to that point. Okay, so what we did to prepare for the experimental protocol. Okay, so it should be really basic and really easy to follow. Right, okay, so the first thing that we did, and what we always need to do before we conduct any kind of testing, is to gain informed consent from our participant. And this is just to say that we've adequately explained exactly what they'll be doing during the test. They understand the procedure they're going to be going through and the risks or the potential risks involved, but they're still happy to take part. And then once they've signed this, we need to get them to fill in a health screen questionnaire. And again, this is just to make sure that they're physically able to undertake the exercise testing without any serious adverse effects. Okay, and then once we've done that, we need to start getting their important socio-demographic information. Okay, so we need to ask them what their date of birth is to find out their age. Okay, and remember, when we're inputting this into the software before the test, we need to maintain anonymity. So it should be the first and then the year that they were born in. Okay, so we only need to know their age in years. All right, and then we need to find out what their height is. So just to recap, we do this by using the stadiometer, okay, to find out their height in centimeters, and then we need to use the measuring scales and the weighing scales to find out the participant's body mass. Okay, and this is really important not only for describing our participants, but also for making some of our variables relative to body mass, so we can compare our results between different people if we need to. Okay, so the socio-demographic information is important for describing our participants in our methodology section. Okay, and then our body mass is also important if we want to make any of our variables relative to body mass as well. Okay, so once we've sorted that out, we need to make sure that our equipment is all set up and ready to go. So we need to make sure the bike is set up appropriately for our participants. So just to let you know, I've put the reference is in here for some of the equipment. So as we go along, you'll see some of the references that you need to input in your report as well. Okay, so we need to adjust the seat height and the handlebar height and make sure that our participant is comfortable with these settings. Okay, so a reference point that we often use for this is just above the hip. Okay, and then once we've done that, we then need to think about the metalyzer. Okay, So if we remember, it's really important that we calibrate the metallizer, okay, so it knows the composition of oxygen and carbon dioxide going through the sample line. So we need to do this to make sure our results are nice and accurate. And then once that is complete, we then need to calibrate the flow sensor, okay, and if we remember, that's when we use the 3-litre syringe, right? So the flow sensor knows the correct amount of air that's being inspired and expired, again, to make sure our results are as accurate as possible. Okay, so then once that's done, we can get the heart rate monitor onto our participant, okay, and make sure that's all working properly. And then we can get the participant on the bike, all right, and then what we need to do is fit the blue face mask, all right, and make sure the straps are clipped into the mask appropriately. And then we then need to make sure that the straps are adjusted properly so that the mask is fitted comfortably to our participant and securely as well, okay? And then the final thing we need to do is input the flow sensor into the mask, okay? And then once we've done that and we've made sure our participant is comfortable, we've checked that all the equipment is working, we are ready to begin the test. Okay, again, Dr. Hennis has already uploaded some really useful recordings from our previous labs that will show you how to set up the metallizer software to actually run the test. But today, this is just a recap for you to understand the steps we need to go through before we actually start the testing. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Again, in our live sessions, I'll be going through how to get your data sets set up for analysis in SPSS. So I'll see you then. Thanks.